Alright, good morning everyone. Today we'll take a look at a small discussion for the test that was conducted on the 2nd of November. Before I start, let me first tell you what the scores have been like. The lowest score that I've given in this test, I have evaluated all these papers myself. Lowest score that I've given is I think 2 or 3 students who got 60 marks. Some students, in fact I think there are 2 students who got, one moment. There are 2 students who got, 2 students who got 147. There are a few students who got 140, 142, 145, which in my opinion is very high. To an extent, to be honest with you, I've also been a little lenient, not too lenient, but a little lenient with the marking, which is why some students, even where they made a couple of small mistakes, I've not really penalized them for that. Second test onwards, I'll get a little more strict, and there you'll get marks closer to what you actually deserve. Why? Because there are some mistakes that students make, which I need to explain to you, which I'll do in the class today. Now, this is the test that was given to you. 60 is the lowest, 147 is the highest. Why people are getting that, you'll understand that in a couple of minutes. These are the topics that were given to you, and the topics were equally divided amongst 4 areas. There were 2 topics on media, which is number 1 and number 3. There were 2 topics on healthcare, which is number 2, number 4. There were 2 topics on women related issues, which are 1 and 3 here, and 2 on international relations, which are 2 and 4 given over here. Now, these are the topics given over here. Before I start with this, what are the common problems students face, or what are the common problems that they usually have when they're writing essays, and which of these problems do you people need to identify? Now, if I take a look at the problems that students have, the problems come in 3 different areas. You may have a problem with regard to the structure, you may have a problem with regard to the interpretation, you may have a problem with regard to the presentation of your essay. Of these, when it comes to the structural problems, the first and the most common problem for most students is to mention a dimension, is to mention an issue, is to mention a perspective, but to not explain it. Many students just write one sentence and they leave that. Fortunately, in your batch, all the students, all the essays that I've checked, this is not a problem with any one of you. Wherever you've written the essay based on what we've discussed earlier, you've given the issue, you've explained the problem, you've given the solution, and you've also given examples. So this is not really a concern. As long as you follow the structure that we've been discussing, this problem takes care of itself. Second problem with students is using examples only as a point. There are many essays that I've checked where a student writes one example for a very long part of the paragraph and leaves it at that, expecting that the examiner will understand what exactly is the issue over there. This again is not a problem that you people are facing. You are writing examples at the end of your paragraphs, but the rest of the paragraph clearly explains what the issue is, what the solution would be. Third problem with students is mechanical writing, giving problems in one part of the essay and in a second part, in a later part, explaining the solutions. Fortunately, even this is not a problem for you. Why? Because in every paragraph that you're writing, again, you're explaining the concern, you're giving the evidence, you're giving the recommendation, creating very well structured paragraphs throughout your essay. Fourth problem that students have is repeating the same point, repeating the same information over and over again. This has happened, I think, with about 3 or 4 students. Especially there was one essay which talked about COVID-19 and the emerging world order. In that part, there are some common concerns. The US and China, multilateralism, neoliberalism, but some students repeated that, but this happened with a very small proportion. So if you fall, you'll get your essay answer sheets. I think within the next 5 or 10 minutes, they're uploading them right now. You'll get them on your portal. Those of you who are sitting here can collect them after the class. When you look at it, if you fall in this category, please do not repeat, because when you repeat, it really lowers the quality of the essay that you're writing. Fortunately, as I said, in the structural part, most students do not have a problem. Second concern, or the second area where students have problems, is in the interpretation of the essay. Now, some of you will have a problem over here. For example, number 1, in the interpretation part, the first problem is a poor interpretation of the topic. What do you mean by poor interpretation? That students ignore the key elements of the topic. They talk about those areas that they want to talk about. For example, if I say there was one topic which said that women are perhaps the only victims who are treated as the accused. In this case, many students, what they have done is they have explained how and why women are victims. How are they victims? Because women face some problems. That is absolutely right. What are their problems? Their problems are, number one, lack of education. Number two, lack of nutrition. Number three, lack of a safe home environment. Number four, lack of employment opportunities. Number five, sexual harassment. Number six, crimes, and so on. Agreed. This is absolutely right. The only concern is when you're writing them, where is the element of accusing these women? You're talking about the fact that they are victims. That I agree with. But the topic does not say women are victims. Topic says that women are the only victims who are treated as the accused. So in each one of them, you will also have to explain every paragraph that if they are victims, despite being victims, how and why are they being accused? How are they being accused? In each of them, that when a woman claims what she knows to be her right, claims what she knows to be every human being's right, very often those rights are denied, and the onus of proving that this is their right lies with the woman. Even if a girl says that I want to go to school, the parents themselves will say that you will go to school only after you finish your household work. And this will happen with women, not with men. And if a girl wants to fight with the parents, wants to fight with the family, and only get access to education, she is accused of not being caring. She is accused of not being responsible. Just one small sentence, if you add in your paragraphs, the way that you are addressing the topic increases significantly. It's not about using the content. See, in the handouts, I can give you content, I can give you examples, I can give you data, but you will still have to modify it. In fact, many of you, when you get your answer sheets back, there is one common comment for many of you: tailor the content, modify the content, manipulate the content to suit the demands of the topic. How you do that in detail, I'll explain to you a little later in the class. So that's one problem that some students are facing. Number two, lack of focus on the topic, digression from the topic. This happened with 3 or 4 students. In fact, one answer sheet, a few answer sheets I'm going to show you. One of the answer sheets, you'll understand this clearly, that you are completely, absolutely digressing from the topic. For some of you, it happens marginally. For example, this case over here, with some students, this has been very acute. But fortunately, that was just 1 or 2 of them. Third problem in interpretation is vague discussions. What do you mean by vague discussion? That you talk about something which has a very weak link, which has a very inconsequential link with the topic. For example, there was this one topic which said, in fact, let me remove this. There was this one topic that said that media must maintain vigilance over the nation. That is absolutely correct. But what do some students do? Some students, what they've done is, vigilance is right, and vigilance, of course, another word I can use is accountability. But some students have focused only on accountability. What do you mean by only accountability? That they focused only on the government. Some students have written only about the media, that the media must be able to regulate itself, that the media must not become vulnerable to the threats of competition and so on. That again is detrimental. How you rectify that? Again, we'll take a look at later. Fourth and worst of all is twisting the interpretation to suit your taste, to suit your content, to suit what you feel, you think you want to write about the topic. This is one topic that is that was given, that the health of nations is more important than the wealth of nations. I don't know who that student was. I think then again the marks are very low. In that essay, what this person has done is that this person has interpreted health in a very different manner. I'll show you that script because that one I know that I have. They've interpreted health as I think as one is civic participation, second I think is rule of law, third is democracy, and so on. When you are living in the middle of a global pandemic, when you know that these kind of pandemics happen once in every 100 years, what exactly are you trying to prove? Are you trying to show that you're different from the others? And if you're trying to show that you're different from the others, then it is very important that you have 2 things. Number 1, tremendous intellectual potential, and number 2, tremendous command over the language, which given my experience with the students, I know most of them do not have. Even if students are good, they have to study so much, they have to do so much that they cannot write so well in one small essay. Now when you do this, what are you doing? You're taking a terrible risk with your attempt. Your marks are bound to, either you will get very high marks, and by very high, if you write an excellent essay in this manner, you may end up with about 160, 165, but the chances of that happening are almost 0, 0.1%, 0.2%. For most of the students, when you interpret it, when you twist the interpretation to suit your own preferences, there's a high probability that your marks will go plummeting down. Like I said earlier also, lowest marks I have given are 60, but if you make such an error in the exam, maybe you will not even get 60, you will end up with 35 or 40 out of 250. So over here, couple of simple problems or common problems that you look at. Third is the presentation. For presentation, most of you, in fact, some of the essay scripts that I've checked, you know, when you look at them, they are so well written that when you look at the page, you already feel that this person must be a good student. And usually where the presentation is good, the content is also good. I don't know whether you people have written in 3 hours or you've taken more time, but some of your essay scripts have been a pleasure, absolute pleasure to read. But some students on the other hand, their essays are very untidy, are very disorganized. I'm just talking about the visual appeal. What do you mean by visual appeal? That when I look at it, I have no idea where your paragraph starts, where your paragraph ends. I have no idea of how you're leaving the indent. Dirty handwriting, scribbled lines going sideways, slanting here and there. If that is a concern with you, please try to correct it. Because on a psychological level, the dirtier, the more untidy your paper looks, on a psychological level, the lesser marks you're likely to get. This time I have not cut any marks for this, but next time onwards, I'll be a little more strict. Number 2 is poor handwriting or poor spellings. Now, poor handwriting I cannot really control because all of you are about 20, 22, 25 years old. By this age, the handwriting that you have, you can't really bring about significant differences, significant improvement. But if you realize that there are some alphabets, what is handwriting? Handwriting usually boils down to 4 or 5 out of 26 alphabets. Those 4 or 5 alphabets in your writing, if they are difficult to identify, if I've seen students, you know, they get the answer sheet back, I look at the answer sheet and I just ask them, what is this word? Even they look at it very carefully with me, and I ask them, what have you written? They can't read it. If you can't read your handwriting, how do you expect the examiner to read it? I will put in the effort because I have to teach you, I'm meeting you every day. The examiner has no accountability towards you, has no responsibility towards you. If he cannot read it, he'll put a small circle, cut it out and move on. And maybe that was a very good point that you're trying to make. Unfortunately, the penalty is upon you, not upon him. Second, more importantly, are spellings. Now, there are some words for which the spellings I may not know or may not know correctly. That is acceptable. There are some students who even write, for example, the media must maintain vigilance over the government. VIGILANCE. I don't know who that student is. There's one student who wrote this test. Throughout the essay, wrote VIGILANCE. Now, when you write this, you come across as a very careless, as a very casual student. If the word was given in the topic, how is it that you don't know the spelling correctly? This means that you just don't care. You will write whatever you feel like writing, expecting that the examiner will do the necessary corrections for you. That will not happen. This leaves a very poor impression. So be a little more careful with your spellings. Third are grammatical errors. Yes, and I would say again, I think about 10% of the students, just about 10% of the students have a problem with grammar. For example, if they are writing about women, there is some student who had written about Tarun Tejpal. And Tarun Tejpal, I don't know, the Tarun Tejpal case, that molestation case we had discussed. And there this person said that she was called to court, Tarun Tejpal. She wrote an email to the victim. What are you doing? You are using the wrong gender. You should be saying he did this, he did that, his book, his case and so on. Now, these kind of errors reflect the fact, and you know that the student is a little weak in grammar. The examiner will not cut your marks for this because we know how the level of education in India or what kind of education we have provided. They will not cut marks, but if it is possible, please rectify it. How you rectify it, I'll just explain to you in a minute or so. Fourth and finally, again as far as presentation is concerned, the order of the essays and the writing of the title. What I said to you in the last class also, order of the essays mean in the first part of your answer sheet, please write the essay from section A. Always mention the question number 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever it is. There are some students who do it very well, some students just don't care. So please write ABCD. Second part of your essay, the second part of your script, then write it, this will be 5, 6, 7, 8. Second part, write section B, 5, 6, 7, 8 and write the title down in bold capital letters. If I say media must maintain vigilance over the government or over the nation, write it in bold letters, capital letters, underline it. It is not the duty of the examiner. I have met students over here who come back, in the prelims they come back and say that, sir, 5 questions, I had solved them in the question paper, but I could not mark the OMR sheet, what can I do? You are coming here as if there is some sort of a magic wand that we can wave. You can do nothing, you lost 5 marks, now you may have to sit for another attempt. Similarly, students come back and say that, sir, last year my essay marks were good, this year I am getting only 85, what went wrong? I am not sure, but maybe an examiner in a bad mood, in a foul mood, without wanting to pay attention, penalized you very heavily. It's a very small thing to do and it's a very small thing to expect from a student. Your welfare, your marks are in your hand, make every effort to ensure that you are able to do justice to your attempt. These are some basic common problems that students have. Now, but these also are not applying to you. The problems that apply to you people based on what I have just read in your answers are these issues over here and simultaneously what you need to do to correct them. First and the most common problem that I found was in one word, what is called greed. What do you mean by greed? Now, let's say if I talk about women related topics, on both the topics that were given to you, one was that women are the only victims who are treated as the accused. Second was women rights are human rights. On both of them, in the handout given on women, you have about, I would say, 18 to 20 points that can be used very comfortably for both of them, 18 to 20, but you had to write only 5. Now, what do students do? Students indulge in what is called an information, and this also I have written in many of your feedbacks. Students indulge in an information overload. They write a paragraph. In that paragraph where they have to write problems, they write 3 problems, but they don't explain any of them. They write 3 examples, sometimes 4 examples. They write the names of 7, 8, 9 government schemes. This much is not required. You are not trying to impress the examiner by saying that you know a lot. You are trying to explain to the examiner that you have a correct understanding of the topic. Therefore, and this also you will find in your answer sheets very frequently, choose your content wisely. You have time. See, for every essay, you will write it in about 1.5 hours. You can take about 15 minutes to prepare the structure. Choose your content wisely. What is the problem you will discuss? What is the solution that you will give? And what is the example that you will use? But per paragraph, as far as possible, try to discuss one issue, one perspective, one problem, one dimension, one example, but discuss it. The focus should not be on mentioning the data, on mentioning the problem, but rather on a discussion or an explanation, because it is that explanation that will fetch you marks. What is the explanation? The explanation is again given in your handouts. For example, if I say catastrophic out-of-pocket expenditure, health expenditure, just writing that much is not enough. You will also have to explain what it means. So just add one more sentence. What is catastrophic? Which exceeds 50% of the household's monthly food expenditure. That is it. Just write that much, you get marks. Why are students not writing that? Because again, there's already an information overload. A paragraph that should have been roughly about this big has already become this big. And for the examiner, it becomes difficult to understand what exactly you're trying to convey. So that's your first problem in what you people have written. Second is digression from the demands of the topic. What do you mean by digression from the demands of the topic? You have the same content for 2, 3, 4, 7, 20 different topics. But depending upon what the topic is saying, you must be able to tailor that content. You must be able to modify it, and usually all that it takes is one sentence to make a huge difference in what you are writing. How you do that, how you tailor the content, you'll have to wait for about 15 minutes. I'll explain it in a later segment of the class. But as far as possible, and students who got good marks, and by good I mean more than 125, I have written in their handouts or I've written in their scripts that you've reinforced the topic repeatedly. You read their first paragraph, second paragraph, last paragraph, over and over again. Every single paragraph addresses the topic very directly. So by the time I as an examiner am done reading your answer script, I'm finished reading your answer script, I have a very clear understanding of what the topic was trying to say. Therefore, what that tailoring means, you'll have to wait a little while, I'll explain it. this problem over here and this problem over here, a tendency to twist the topic, a tendency to be different. This is what I was saying earlier with that boy who interpreted health in a very different manner. This please do not do. Why and how? I'll just show you that script and I'll explain to you again. Number 3 or number 4, a lack of evidence in some paragraphs. This is very few students, I think about 10% students who've written the content, who've explained the problem, but who've not given any evidence, who've not given any example, who've not given any criticism, who've not mentioned anything. This do not do. Understand, some students, for example, will say to me that, sir, you say that write an example, write evidence, but for some of them we don't have a solution. Understand, we are not calling it only an example, we say evidence. And evidence is not just a remedy, is not just a solution, it can also come in the nature of a warning or a caution. When we say that Ramnath Goenka published a blank page in the editorial of the Indian Express to protest against the emergency, we are not giving a solution. We are giving you a warning, a word of warning. We are giving you a word of caution. And we are telling you that this ideally is what the media is expected to do to maintain vigilance over the country. But every paragraph where you concluding in your body paragraphs, every paragraph must contain some evidence or the other. Otherwise, the quality of that paragraph really drops. Yes, a major problem that I've seen with you people is the first essay is well written, first essay is well structured. In the second essay, whichever was the second you people have written, in the second essay, attention, choice of content, effort, language, handwriting, time management, everything seems to suffer. There were a few answer scripts that I read. Introduction was excellent, conclusion was excellent. Second essay that I read, introduction was satisfactory, conclusion usually was very, very brief and very poor. That indicates, what does that indicate? In one word, time management, or rather poor time management. Divide, see, never go. What do students do? Students have this notion that I will write an excellent first essay, second one I'll think about later. In the process, what do? They might end up writing a very good or an excellent essay, but the second one really drops in quality. I think about 8 or 10 students fall in this category. 8 or 10 students, in fact, have written also in your evaluation that there is a drastic, there's a shocking, there's a disappointing drop in the quality of your first essay as compared to the second one. The second essay you've written very badly, usually because you did not have time. For this first test, I told you people that you can take as much time as you want, spend 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, but write 2 good essays. Second test, I will more or less allow you the same thing. Third test, I will tell you, try to write under time constraints so that you learn this time management also. So please ensure that you do justice to both. I would much rather prefer that you get 65 in both the essays rather than getting 95 in one essay and getting only 25 in the second. Do justice to both of them. Why? Because you people are here not to impress someone, not to prove a point. You are here only to get marks. Maximize marks in both. And finally, our language skills. Like I was saying earlier also, grammar, spellings, to an extent even handwriting. Now there are some students here who say that, sir, my grammar is not good, I have not used English for a long time and so on. First point is for you, read good material. What is good material? Number 1, your newspapers. Number 2, books that you study for, not any extra book. The books that you study for your GS or for your optional. Number 3, your class notes. Number 4, the handouts that are given. This is good material. From here, what do you do? Especially for students who are weak in English, whose language is a little poor, collect words, collect phrases, collect entire sentences. If I was in your place, I would have probably 5 pages which I have kept separate for women, 5 for media, 5 for healthcare. When I read something, if I come across a good sentence, I'll just copy it from the newspaper and write it over there. When I read this, this enables me now, obviously later when I'll write, it enables me to write a good answer. It enables me to improve my language. I cannot, last class we had a small class on writing ability, but we cannot go too deep into grammar and all because that will take a lot of time and you people already have a lot of studies to do. So simple intervention, read good material, collect good words, phrases, even sentences from there. Number 2, for many of you, when you are writing, students say that, sir, somehow my writing does not have the right impact. Please write smaller sentences. Some of you try to write, in fact, I'll show you a couple of examples for this also. Some of you write one sentence that continues for the entire paragraph. You say that the problem with women is that they are victims of crime, comma, which tells us that we must take steps to ensure their protection, comma, for which the government has introduced the Domestic Violence Act, comma, however, this Domestic Violence Act is not producing the desired impact, therefore, in the future, it is so long that I can't understand what you are trying to say. Therefore, when you are writing, always remember, pick up any good book, any good author, sentences will always be small, because the smaller the sentence, the greater, the more powerful impact it creates. These are some of the problems I have seen in your answer sheets, and these are some suggestions that you can undertake to overcome these problems. Now, to understand why I am saying that these are problems and to explain some of them to you, let me also take a look at some of the students and what they have written. For example, I have not put the names over here for the simple reason that obviously I don't want to criticize anyone, I don't want to praise anyone also. If you praise students, they get complacent, they don't work hard. If you criticize them, they get absolutely demoralized. I don't know who this person is, and let me read the sentence over here with you. Where should I start? I will start over here. This is where the sentence starts. The sentence is, this is clearly evident in the recent event of the COVID pandemic, where the wealthiest of nations like the US had to suffer tremendously without proper health of its people, and the entire economy had come to a halt, affecting the wealth negatively, teaching us that health is more important than the wealth of the nations. How many ideas given in this? 3. The sentence is so long that it becomes difficult to identify what exactly you are trying to convey. Therefore, this is exactly what I was saying, write smaller sentences. If you read the next part over here, it says health plays an important part in increasing the human capital, increasing the human capital necessary for the creation of wealth, whereas wealth is necessary to give a better standard of living to so on and so forth. The sentence is still not over. You are writing 2 long sentences, and the longer your sentence, more the chance that the examiner or the reader will not be able to understand what you are saying. Same student, I have taken another, and I don't know who this is. If you are watching this, please pay attention to this. Look at the second paragraph over here. The second paragraph starts with this sentence here. The sentence does not finish. The page finishes. It will go on to the next page, but the sentence has not gotten over. Now, if I read this, it says humans play an important role in increasing the human capital necessary for the creation of wealth, whereas wealth is necessary to give a better standard of living to the people, which in turn helps in developing a healthy nation. But this wealth distribution is not equitable, and the have-not struggle even for. It's going on and on and on. I don't even remember, based on this, I don't remember what you started saying, what problem you identified, what solution, and this is going to go on for another 5 or 6 lines on the next page. Write smaller sentences, they are easier to understand, they create a better impact, they convey in a far better manner what exactly you are trying to say. Similarly, other students, if I look at this one over here, yes, now this is interpreting the topic as you feel like. The topic said, this student is still not very bad, but again, don't do this. The topic was, the media must maintain vigilance over the nation. This person over here, this part I am reading, this person said the job of the media inter alia is to ensure accountability of various stakeholders that run the nation, especially the government. Now, that's fine, you can write that much. But when you start repeating this word accountability, you have said that we are not only, the media is not only maintaining vigil, you have now slowly started digressing towards only accountability. But only accountability is not the work of the government, is not the work of the media. If I talk about, for example, there's a piece of evidence given in your handout that when the COVID pandemic started, the Tablighi Jamaat was wrongly accused and wrongly vilified, I would say, criticized for spreading the virus, for being solely responsible for spreading the virus. In that case, I'm not talking about accountability at all. I'm only saying maintain vigilance. Now, I don't know who this was, a boy or a girl, but this person who wrote this, in the rest of the essay, every single paragraph, the word vigilance did not come. The word that was common was the word accountability. The first 2 pages, 3 pages, I will ignore it. I'll say maybe the student has, he's going to come to it eventually. But when I keep reading the same word accountability over and over again, I get the impression that you've forgotten about the actual topic. You cannot interpret the topic according to your wishes. you will have to interpret it according to the manner in which it was intended to be interpreted. Your interpretation must be as close. So don't change words at your will. Now this essay was still fine. I don't know how many marks this person has got, but this was still fine. One essay that came across as completely, and that is what I was saying, don't try to be different, don't try to be radical unless and until you are exceptionally gifted. And if you are that exceptionally gifted, ideally you should not be aspiring to become a bureaucrat, you should become a published world renowned author. Now the topic, I hope the topic is given here. Yes, it's given right here itself. The health of nations is more important than the wealth of nations. Why is this topic chosen? What is wealth of nations? That is Adam Smith's book. Who's Adam Smith? The father of economics. He said that the wealth of nations is important. But now, based on what we've seen in the last one and a half years now, we realize that health is even more important than wealth. Now, I don't know who this is, but some student wrote, and the first part I read, I still was fine with it. This paragraph writes, and that's why I said don't take unnecessary risks. Our history is replete with practical lessons. A journey back to history will often show us that the ancient empires rose and garnered immense wealth just to fall. The mighty Roman Empire, the Ottoman Empire, all had acquired enormous wealth in their days. However, all fell because they seriously lacked health. When I don't know what I wrote in the comment over there, but when I read this, for a moment even I believed the student. Even I believe that there must have been some genuine health concerns. I have not read this in history anywhere. But maybe this person is from a background of history, maybe the Roman Empire had some very serious medical issues. Maybe there was a pandemic that they could not control. Maybe the Ottomans fell because of that, which I haven't read in history or I don't remember. So I wrote something over here, I wonder if it is true. I don't know what the comment was, and I left it at that. Now, this is what this person wrote. It's a very strange understanding. Tomorrow, if a student wants, you can say Harappan Empire, you can say Indus Valley Civilization, you can say Egyptian civilization, they fell because of health. Now, who's going to go back and prove whether it happened or not? But maybe you're right. I ignored that. I moved on. Second paragraph, the next paragraph that this student wrote, in this paragraph, the student wrote that the health of nations is an aggregate of multiple aspects. This part now remember carefully, and in the exam don't make these kind of mistakes. This paragraph this person wrote, quite often they are multiple aspects, quite often it is judged, and yes, these are the characteristics now: citizen centricity of governance, trust that the people hold in the government, level of cohesion among the members, diversity and so on, security, diversity, cohesion and so on. Again I read this. Now the student makes a valid point. What this person is saying is absolutely not wrong. This can be considered correct, that the health of a nation is determined by the citizen centricity that you have, by rule of law that you have, by democracy if you have it, by social cohesion and so on. You're absolutely right. And that's why I put tick marks over here. However, by the time you finish reading this paragraph, there's one question which even a student will think of in their mind, that if this is the wealth of if this is the health of a nation, how is it different from the wealth? It's the same thing. What is India's wealth? India's wealth is the fact that we are a democracy. India's wealth is that we have rule of law. India's wealth is that we are trying to promote citizen participation. What is the difference between the two? And the moment I ask you this question, now I know the rest of your essay you will not be able to write. What did this person do? Later on, went on, and it was a very haphazard kind of an essay. In some parts talked about health as in the health that we actually talk about, that healthcare is not accessible, healthcare is not affordable. Then went back and said that again. For example, citizen centricity is weak, citizens don't have awareness about their rights. What are you trying to say? Which is why I said to you earlier also, you want to take these kind of risks, do that at your own will. I really cannot control that. But to do justice to such a radical interpretation, you need very good intellectual abilities, exceptional intellectual abilities and exceptional writing skills, which in my experience with thousands of students, I have not seen so far. See, please understand, I have nothing to gain, I have nothing to lose. Classes will get over in a few days time, you will go and live your own lives, I'll live mine. Maybe in 2022 you'll write your mains, maybe you'll write them in 2024. Whether you pass or you fail after these classes, there's a very high probability that we will never see each other again. I have corrected thousands of answer scripts, I have met thousands of students based on that, and that's not about me, that's about any teacher who's teaching you over here. They're not teaching you something to prove a point to you. They are trying to tell you that when you are sitting for the exam, there is a certain way, everyone has their own method, but they are trying to tell you that based on our experiences, this is one common, simple way through which you can put in maximum effort and get minimum effort and get maximum benefits. These kind of mistakes will cost you very heavily. I was thinking last night, all the essay work was done, I had evaluated, I had given the scripts back to them, everything was done. For about half an hour, I was walking on my rooftop and I was just thinking about one thing. I said that, have I done justice to these students? Have I been able to prepare these students to do well? Because 2-3 of these essays really stood out in my mind, they were really disturbing me. Then I realized that based on the same content, there are some students who are getting 60 and there are some students who are getting 147. They are writing the same things. There are students getting 95 also, 115 also. They are also using the exact same content. They are talking about the same thing, affordability, accessibility of healthcare, truth and impartiality, fairness, and so on and so forth. If they are writing the same things, then why are some students getting 50, 60 and some students getting 140, 150? The problem does not lie with the content. The problem does not lie with the teacher or with the institute. And I am not defending anyone here. The issue is, are you, when you are sitting in the class, are you sitting with the right intention? This person, I don't know what the second essay was. Second essay was, and this went on for I don't know how many pages. I think one essay was about 15 pages, one was about 17 pages. What are you doing? You think you will complete your paper in time? In contrast, and why am I saying that with the same content, some students get very good marks? I don't know again who that student was, but there was this one student who wrote this essay. What is the topic? Same topic, in fact, health of nations is more important than the wealth of nations. I hope I can, come on. Now this is the introduction that this person has written. This, I have evaluated you people on the basis of first criteria or 5 criteria. First criteria is introduction and conclusion. Highest marks that I have given for any student for any criteria where you have written very well is 7.5 out of 10. I have not given more than 7.5 to anyone, that I am telling you. This particular student for introduction and conclusion, I gave 8. That much I remember, half a mark more. Why? Because it was very difficult to find something that I can suggest or something that I can point out as wrong. If you look at it, this is where the paragraph ends. This must be how many? I think about 120 words. But in 120 words, with an example, there is a very clear understanding of what the topic is saying. The handwriting is a little small to read, but let me try to read it with you. This sentence starts over here, the introduction. It says the one lesson that COVID-19 has taught the world collectively is that however wealthy a country is, its wealth is not enough to protect the citizens from a disease. Health presents a challenge for all nations. While it is often assumed that being wealthy can help you to stay healthy, as you have better access to resources and treatments, COVID-19 again sets a very different example, wherein US, one of the highest income nations, was among the worst hit nations by the pandemic. One sentence, but very simple, and I can understand that yes, what you are saying is right. Health is more important than wealth. Reading further, strategic investments in health not only ensure better health and improve well-being of the people, but also bolster economies, create jobs, and enhances personal productivity. Countries which do not focus on the health of their citizens are proven to have poor growth rates and lower GDP. Health and wealth have a correlative relationship, and that is why it is said that the health of nations is more important than the wealth. Very clearly I have understood. Now I know that this part over here, this last part of this paragraph, where is this borrowed from? The IMF report of 2018, which says that wealth cannot always produce health, but health always has a positive, but that's not been mentioned. When it is not mentioned, it in fact increases the credibility of the student, because the examiner believes that you have a very good, and the language is not the same. The language I have written in your handout is slightly different compared to what is given here, but the thought has been used very well. One small example that you could have used was, what is that example? The US, that being wealthy is not enough, health is equally if not more important. Very effective. And this person, I don't know who this was, I have given 8 out of 10. This is the introduction. Let me put it slightly differently. Look at the same person's conclusion. Very small, very simple, but very effective. Is this the conclusion? Yes. This, in fact, I wrote also good conclusion which I write for very few students. Look at the size of the paragraph. I think it must be what, about 60 words, 70 words. Here now this person has mentioned that report. In its 2000 Article 4 report, the IMF has said that India can boost its human capital productivity by investing in education and healthcare. It identified poor public health as the 12th most important hurdle for ease of doing business. Ease of doing business, I don't know what this word is. What is this? Ahead of crime. I don't know, some word, something regulations, policy instability and so on. Then healthcare is a key recommendation in its suggestions for labour market reforms. Increase in GDP does not guarantee better health, but improvement in health does relate positively to GDP. Finished. This sentence is directly taken from the handout. First sentence is directly taken from there, but they are used at the right place. When we were talking in one of the earlier classes about framing your introduction and conclusion, at that point I had said to you, use your best examples for your introduction and your conclusion. You set the right tone for the examiner. On a psychological level again, your marks will definitely improve. This is one healthcare topic that was given. That was a girl who wrote this, wrote it, but her sheet was very dark. I tried clicking a photograph, it was not showing. This is one girl who wrote, what is that? Health is not the absence of a disease, it is the presence of well-being. That was a topic that was given. Different people have written different things. I have also given different examples. This girl, now in media, we discussed Sushant Singh Rajput. After that, that case never came up. And we discussed Sushant Singh Rajput to exemplify the fact that the media focused in the wrong direction. That instead of covering the NEET student protest, instead of covering the COVID pandemic, instead of covering migrant problems, the media was showing debate after debate on why Sushant Singh Rajput passed away. This girl, I don't know what her name is, this girl used Sushant Singh Rajput's case as example for the healthcare essay. In her introduction, I still remember it, most students write like this, her answer was horizontal. But when I read it, I went to the other page, then I came back to the first page, it was that well written. This person said that last year, the death of Sushant Singh Rajput captured the attention of a lot of people, generated a lot of disappointment, generated a lot of shock and so on. But Sushant Singh Rajput, till a couple of days before he died, was absolutely hale and hearty, was absolutely fit and fine, was attending function after function, was clicking photographs. He seemed to be very happy, a normal life. Why? Because health is not the, he didn't have any disease. Health is not the absence of disease, it is the presence of well-being. And once you write this in the introduction, I am telling you, an examiner will look at you very favorably. This girl had also mentioned, who is that person who passed away recently? Siddharth Malhotra. I think his example also she had used somewhere. He was also fit and fine. In fact, if someone asked you, who do you think is physically fit? Who do you think is healthy? I think most people would have pointed at him. But if I ask you, why are you calling him healthy? You would probably say that, sir, he doesn't have any disease. He doesn't have diabetes, doesn't have blood pressure, doesn't have hypertension. And I would agree with you. And yet, as it turns out, it was very unfortunate. He died all of a sudden, again, leaving us sad and leaving us shocked. What is this called? This is called choosing your content. And you're not being radical, you're not being different. You're just observing the world around you, somewhere in your mind or maybe on your sheets. You're noting down these kind of things, but when you write them there, these are students now where 140, 150, 160 becomes comfortably possible. With the content that I've given you in your handout, again, I'm telling you very honestly, I can get you to a score of 120, 125, not more than that. That is the maximum I can do. And this much I can assure you, you will not go less than 110. Read the handouts carefully, at least 110 out of 250 you will get. Read it a little better, 120, 125, you will get that much I assure you. But going from 120 to 140, 150, that gap of 25, 30 marks, that will vary from student to student. The content is right in front of you. How you use it, that is most important. Clear? Again, let me briefly just go back because this essay really was something that was very disturbing. Where is that gone? These kind of mistakes don't make. You make it over here, you wasted one essay, you've written a lot without getting anything out of it. You do this in the actual examination, it will cost you 1 year of your life, 1 year of your seniority, 1 year of your career and one more attempt, absolutely unnecessarily, absolutely unnecessarily. Play safe, focus on getting marks and maximize the marks that you can score. Now, before I look at the essays themselves, before I look at the topics themselves, before I move on, so far, does anyone have any questions? So far, based on, I have tried to cover whatever I thought a student may want to ask me, but if there is something that I have ignored, any question if you have, please raise them now. How the sentence should have been framed in this example here correctly that it creates a lasting impact. Which sentence are you talking about? That I am not really sure. Ashwath K, this boy, I remember his essay was good. His essay was good. First example. This one. This one. No, this you cannot frame or you cannot write these examples anywhere, because if I ask you, then I have also spoken with a couple of teachers who teach history, and I asked them, that's why I was talking about Indus Valley and Harappa and so on. I asked them that was there any health related issue which led to the demise of the Ottoman Empire or the downfall of the Roman Empire or the collapse of the Egyptian civilization? They said there is nothing that we know of in history. There might have been minor problems. So when you're putting it in such a radical manner, I don't know how exactly you'll be able to justify it, because the first question any examiner will ask you is, then what is the difference between health as compared to wealth? The topic very clearly makes a difference that wealth is what? Economic prosperity, GDP, growth, income and so on. What is health on the other hand? The well-being of your citizens, which you've seen over the last 1 year. Alright, any other question over here? No. Alright, then let me also take a look at the topics that were given to you and how exactly you approach them. Now, there were 8 topics given. The 2 that were based on international relations, those 2 I will not look at. Those were done by Iqbal. The remaining 6 I'll take a look at over here. First and foremost, and briefly let me recap whatever we've discussed in the classes so far. Number 1, interpret. This is what you do when you're sitting for an essay paper. Number 1, interpret the topic correctly. Do you agree with it? Do you disagree with it? Is this only based on information? And number 2, a checklist of points that you're going to cover. Number 2, establish content for your introduction and your conclusion. And again, choose one good, in fact not only good, I would say choose your best example for your introduction and save one equally good example for your conclusion. As I was showing you with this essays where they create an impact, lead to the topic as the last sentence. Third, today is Sunday, Tuesday which is 16th is essay test number 2. 4 of the topics given over there are reflective topics, and in reflective topics this is absolutely vital. In all the other topics also it is important. In reflective topics this will set the tone, will set the mood for your essay. Body paragraph number 1, what are you supposed to do? Establish a correlation between different terms, establish the background, explain the context, and for this, like I said to you in the previous classes also, keep a simple 3-point rule. Don't write, because there are some students who wrote essays, their first body paragraph, this paragraph after the introduction, goes on for 1.5 pages. They put in everything that they can think of. But when you put in so much content, it becomes difficult to understand what exactly, what importantly are you trying to convey. So keep a simple 3-point rule. How you keep the 3-point rule? I'll take a couple of examples and explain to you. 3 points which in your opinion establish that correlation, explain the background or explain the context. And fourth, body paragraphs, and again in my opinion at least 5 body paragraphs per essay. Yes, some of the students, they've written good essays, but instead of giving 5 paragraphs they've written only 3 body paragraphs. Essays are very small. Now I'm not saying that you write a very long essay, but do justice to different dimensions. What are these body paragraphs? Different dimensions, different perspectives, different viewpoints. You should have at least 5 of them. Now to understand how you do this, let me start first with the media. There were 2 media topics. Let me start with them. Then we'll go to healthcare, and then we'll take a look at women related topics. First media related topic was media must maintain vigilance over the nation. Interpret it correctly. Should the media or does the media need to maintain vigilance? Obviously answer is yes. So I agree with the topic. In the topic, keep in mind the key terms. Media, vigilance over the nation, not only over itself, not only over the government, not only over society, but over the nation, which includes the government, which includes the private sector, which includes the media itself, and of course which includes your citizens. Here, what content can I use for the introduction or the conclusion? I can use the example of Ramnath Goenka. I can use the example of Tehelka and what is that, Operation West End. I can use the example of Dharsana Salt Works and Webb Miller. I can talk about P. Sainath, Magsaysay Award winner. I can talk about Sushant Singh Rajput case and what should I say, very poor media coverage of more important issues at that time. I can talk about Rohini Mohan and the NRC exercise in Assam. All this content I don't need to explain because it was already given in your handout. Any one of them I can use for my introduction and one more I will use for my conclusion. Now here please remember one thing, this content that I am choosing may be different from what you had chosen, which does not make your content wrong. Maybe some of you were able to write some other introduction, some other content equally well, but these are examples that are safe to use for a topic of this nature. Number one. Number two, and this is your most important focus now, especially for the Tuesday test, body paragraph number 1. And like I said, simple 3-point rule. You can keep it less than 3, good, but at least ensure that you don't exceed 3 points. Now the topic says media must maintain vigilance over the nation. So first question that I'll ask, or first point that I will write in my body paragraph, explain in plain simple terms, simple language, what is the job of the media? The job of the media is to discover, is to select and to report relevant information, relevant news. Number 2, what do you do with this news? You inform public opinion. Many students, I don't know, surprisingly have written enlightenment of the masses, enlightenment of the citizens, which is a very good way of conveying yourself. Inform public opinion, create awareness about important issues. That's what the media should do. But how does the media ensure vigilance? How does the media ensure vigilance? By exposing people who are doing something wrong, by maintaining accountability over different institutions, and by demanding corrections, if possible, by ensuring those corrections happen. But that's what they should do. The media does not always do that. Sometimes, how does the media weaken vigilance? The same media can weaken vigilance, number 1, by concealing information, by suppressing vital information, by diverting attention from issues that are of importance. Many of you again have written issues, you must make a distinction between issues that are in public interest as compared to those that are only of public interest. Of public interest may be a Bollywood star's wedding, but in public interest is what is actually happening, which is actually vital, critical for us. This you will write in your body paragraph. Note one thing, I am not mentioning a single example. Why am I not mentioning a single example? Because the body paragraph number 1 is my interpretation of the topic. The examples that I need to do, for example, if I want to say you are suppressing vital information, if I say that you are actually maintaining accountability, if I say that you are informing public opinion, I will give examples in my essay. But in this paragraph, I will help you understand how these terms, the key terms of the topic, are correlated. And now if I look at what can I write in my essay, these are, this I don't need to really go into in detail, but these are some points that you can use. Now if I remember the media class correctly, there were 5 principles, each principle had 5 dimensions, each dimension had 2 problems, 2 concerns, 2 recommendations, at least 2 examples, which makes it a total of 50 points. How many points do you have to write? How many body paragraphs you have to write? 5. So choose your content carefully, wisely, sensibly. The better your content, and how do you choose your content? By keeping in mind the key terms of the topic. What is the key term? Media, maintain vigilance. Now here there are many other points again that we can use, but some that are more pertinent. For example, truth and accuracy. Under truth and accuracy, I will talk about the political dimension. Now, some students, what they've done is, see, these notes have these principles and these dimensions to help you understand the structure of different perspectives of the media, but they don't necessarily have to be written in your paragraph. Some students, for example, they've written in headings also. They've written that we can consider the following principles: truth and accuracy. Under truth and accuracy, they've written media must be truthful and accurate and so on in its reporting. You are right. It's not that you're doing something wrong, but now you're writing in a very mechanical manner. Now you're writing in a very childish manner. You are supposed to write an essay for the civil services exam. So you don't really need to do that. You just go straight to the issues that we're facing here. How you face them, I'll explain. I'll give you a couple of examples for this also. So truth and accuracy, from the political point of view, non-partisanship, political bias, avoid advocacy, Ramnath Goenka, Tehelka. Truth and accuracy from a social point of view, you can say that you should avoid communal overtones, treat all sections equitably, avoid any reporting that promotes enmity, hostility, prejudices. And whose example will you give? For example, Tablighi Jamaat. There's another example given in your handout, but I know that between the two, this one is more appropriate. Choose your content wisely. Independence, ethical, uphold values, lag up. And this, surprisingly, many students wrote this very well. That Darsana Saltwork example, they wrote it very well. And must uphold journalistic standards, Webb Miller, and so on. This I will not get into, but these are some of the points that are more directly related to vigilance. Now, why am I not getting into this? I'll explain in a minute or so again. Second topic that was given on media is that false reporting is more dangerous than ignorance. Is it more dangerous? Of course, yes. And what can I use over here? Now your example must talk about false reporting. Introduction and conclusion I am talking about. So here Darsana is a very good example, but I can't use that here. Ramnath Goenka is a very good example, but I can't use that here because I can't show you how this is related to false reporting. Here what can I give you? I can talk about the Rainpada massacre. I can talk about the Muzaffarpur riots. I can talk about Tablighi Jamaat. I can talk about Sudarshan News. Yes, this one student, I don't know, I think day before yesterday I was checking that copy. That person used this example on the first page. I don't know who you are, but this person, but they did not name it. That student wrote that there's some Hindi news channel which was promoting communal overtones by saying that there's a jihad in the UPSC also regarding the Islamic community. And I have written over there, and that's what I'm telling you people also. These names you can use. You have to give me some details. Do you remember this one case where I've told you that earlier this year there was a court in Bihar that sent a woman to jail, a gang rape victim to jail, because she broke down in court. Students say that some time back a gang rape victim was sent to jail because she broke down in court. I understand nothing. So you'll have to give me a little detail. You don't have to tell me the name of the victim. You don't have to tell me the gender of the judge. You can at least say this much, that in the middle of 2021, earlier this year, in the state of Bihar, in so and so district of Bihar, some detail which establishes the context. Now students say that, sir, in ethics classes you tell us that you should not name someone, you should not criticize someone. Absolutely right. But this is not ethics, this is the essay paper. You will still not criticize. You are just mentioning information. And why are you mentioning this? Because this case was taken up by the Supreme Court itself. And it was the Supreme Court which had banned this channel from airing that program in the future. So don't hesitate, don't worry. All the examples that I put over here are politically safe, are politically correct. Even if you write them, you will not lose marks because of them. Alright, so you could have mentioned that. You could have talked about COVID cures, you could have talked about Arushi Talwar and the way the media covered her trial, and so on. Now, topic is false reporting is more dangerous than ignorance. So here, only thing that I am doing is changing the content. If you notice, what I wrote in body paragraph number 1 for the previous topic is ditto the same for what I am writing over here. The only thing that I am changing is what is not the work of the media, what is the job of a reporter, and the content is the same. Discover, select, report relevant information, inform public opinion, create awareness, and so on. But number 2 now changes. The second part of this paragraph changes. What is false reporting? Now I can again say, now what do students do? Earlier I said that when you have to tailor your content to meet the demands of the topic, I said one small sentence, 1 or 2 words here or there will make a significant difference, a huge impact in how you are writing. Here what do? I will not say what the media does wrong. I will say what is false reporting, and the content is the same. Concealing information, one word I have added over here, doctoring information, manipulating information to serve certain interests, even prejudices, diverting attention to irrelevant issues. This, if I compare with the last topic, is 100% the same content. This is, I think, about 95% the same content, and yet if I write this down in a body paragraph, the 2 body paragraphs will convey very different ideas that suit the topic. You are not here to write information, you are here to write an essay, and the only thing that you have to do is modify that content a little, tailor that content a little. Third, what dangers does this create? Now this, if you had written this, no example, I am not mentioning a single example here, but if you had written this much, the quality of your essay would suddenly jump up. What can you write? When you give us false information, how will that affect you? Every single student has written about violence, has written about communalism, has talked about prejudices and so on. But there are so many other dimensions. Number one, of course, communalism, but number two, there is health risks also. In the introduction, I just talked about quack cures. What are quack cures? Last year when the COVID pandemic started, people were saying that a very simple way of keeping yourself safe is, I think, by taking mustard oil and putting it in your nose or something. There were some people who were saying that you should drink herbal tea. Of course, there are a lot of people in India who were saying that you should have a bath in cow dung, or I don't know, drink cow urine and so on. These are quack cures. If I, heaven forbid, if I get infected with COVID, instead of going to a hospital, I will drink urine for the next 3 days. And that can potentially create very serious, very fatal health risks for me. There is the dignity and the privacy of the individual. What is false reporting? The Arushi Talwar case. When you do not know what happened to her, you cannot obstruct the path of justice. You certainly, the media went to the extent that all of this is written in your handout. The media went to the extent of even, what should I say, even accusing her father of having an improper relationship with his daughter. And the daughter is dead, by the way. Have some sensitivity, have some shame. What are you affecting? The dignity and the privacy of the individual through your false reporting. Similarly, they could be subverting the course of justice, fake news, electoral manipulation and so on. There are, I don't know, 5 or 6 words that I have written over here. Out of these 5, 6, if you write even 4 in body paragraph number 1, the quality of your essay suddenly jumps up. Where is this content given? This content is again given right in your handout. If I just go back to the previous slide, these you will find from here, come on, these you will find from here itself. All that you have to do is tailor, modify the content to suit the demands of the topic. Now, for example, if I look at this topic, false reporting is more dangerous than than ignorance. Again, I have some different principles, I have some different dimensions and so on. What do I explain? There is nothing to explain. But briefly, let me look at, for example, I will say truth and accuracy social, communal overtone should be avoided. Again, I give the example of Tablighi Jamaat, truth and accuracy scientific, unscientific claims, illogical advice, COVID quack cures, fairness and ethical, judicial reporting, Arushi Talwar, humanity and social, uphold the dignity of the individual, defamation. This surprisingly, I don't know why nobody wrote, not a single student has given this example, the Jasleen and Sarvjit case. This is right about the final verdict came around the time the Me Too movement has started in India, and this was the exact opposite, that the girl had maliciously and falsely accused the boy of misbehaving with her, and that boy had to struggle in courts, had to fight a court case for about 3.5 or 4 years, and so on and so forth. Now, this again is content that is appropriate, and see, in the last column there are 2-3 examples given in your handout, but I am selecting only one of them. Why? Because this is most relevant to explaining that aspect of false reporting. Maintain focus on the topic. Now, this I know you people can understand. What you need to understand is this part over here, but just give me one moment. I think about 50% of the students have got one common feedback from me in some part of their essay or the other, where I have written tailor the content to meet the demands, to suit the demands of the topic. What does that mean? Now, 2 topics we are looking at for media. I told you something you can use in the introduction, something you can write in body paragraph number 1, but my content is more or less the same. For example, for both of them, if you go back to the previous slides, you have the videos also, you can take a look at that. The principle that we use for both of them, one principle was common, truth and accuracy, dimension was common, social, ideal condition, treat all sections equitably, concern, communal overtones, recommendation, avoid reports which promote enmity or hatred, an example, Tablighi Jamaat and COVID. Content is identical for both the essays, but when I write the essay, all that I have to do is write it. There is nothing special that you have to do. I have to write it in a manner that meets the demands of that topic. For example, if I was writing that the media must maintain vigilance, what is my focus? My focus is on maintaining vigilance. With Tablighi Jamaat, what have you done wrong? You diverted my attention to something that was unnecessary rather than more important concerns that the country was facing. So if this content I want to write here, what will I write? I will write that the media can maintain vigilance over the nation by ensuring that disruptive and communal elements are kept in check. This requires truthful journalism which treats all sections of society equitably. Am I writing this is the principle? No. Am I writing ideal condition? No. Am I writing recommendation? No. That is for your understanding, to structure it for you. But this is how you will write. Further, it thus becomes vital to ensure that any reports that promote feelings of enmity or hostility on the basis of religion, caste, etc. are avoided. Further, for instance, Indian media very irresponsibly cast a figure of suspicion at members of the Tablighi Jamaat in the early days of the COVID pandemic, holding them singularly responsible for the spread of the virus. This not only promotes hostility towards an entire religion, not Tablighi Jamaat, an entire religion, but also, and this is where again that vigilance part comes, diverts attention from more pressing concerns. At that time, what was your problem? Number one, the plight of migrants. Number two, the misuse of power by the police. Number three, economic hardships that people are facing, and so on. That's it. How many words have I used here? I think about 120. But through this one small point, one small paragraph, I have told you that this is why it is very important to maintain vigilance. Don't divert our attention. What is the takeaway? Don't divert our attention. Same content, same evidence, same principle, same dimension, we will use in another paragraph addressing another topic. Now here the topic is false reporting is more dangerous than ignorance. What do I have to tell you? Number one, false reporting. Number two, it is dangerous. How? Same thing we are writing, but we are just changing our language a little. One of the foremost dangers of false reporting is that it can incite communalism and societal division. Therefore, reporters should carefully verify the information they are sharing with the people. Avoid those reports that can aggravate or instigate hostility among the citizens. However, media outlets sometimes do the exact opposite by manipulating information to promote prejudices. This part now over here, starting here, going till here, I have just copied from your handout and pasted over here. A case in point is the vilification of the Tablighi Jamaat and the entire Indian Muslim community in the early days of the COVID pandemic. Muslims who were stuck in the Nizamuddin mosque were described as hiding. Hindu pilgrims at Vaishno Devi or Sikhs at Majnu Ka Tila were described as stranded or trapped. This shows, what am I talking about? False reporting, which is dangerous. So I still have to tell you, how is this dangerous? Earlier we were telling you, in the previous essay we were telling you, focus on the important issues. Now I am telling you that what you are doing is wrong. How do I do that? One sentence at the end. This shows a clear bias in the manner of reporting and runs the risk of further worsening religious divisions in the country. The content for both these paragraphs is about 80% the same. The only thing that varies, the only thing that differs is the manner in which you present it. Which is why again the content is available to you. You will read it, you can memorize it, you will learn it, that's not a concern. When you are writing the essay, keep the topic in mind. You are writing based on that topic, you are not giving us information. This is essay writing. Does everyone follow what this means? These online people also. Do you follow what this means? Alright. This is your media topics. Similarly, there were two topics given on healthcare. First topic was health of nations is more important than the wealth of nations. Is health more important than wealth? Undeniably yes. These are the terms that you focus on. What can you use in the introduction? You can talk about USA during the COVID, wealthiest nation but worst affected. You can talk about the IMF 2018 report. What does it say? It says, like that girl used it in the conclusion, you could have used it in the introduction. That economic growth may not always lead to better health, but better health is positively correlated with your economic growth. Third, hunger, food, HDI rank, hunger index, food index, HDI rank, mortality rate, whatever you want to talk. What are you doing? Providing shocking information. To say that while India has ambitions of becoming a $5 trillion economy, the fact of the matter is that in your country, people are struggling to breathe. People are struggling to live. You can talk about problems of globalization, problems of urbanization. For wealth, people are coming to cities like Delhi. But cities like Delhi, for metropolitan cities, what is the most common word that we use for diseases? Lifestyle diseases. What are lifestyle diseases? The kind of diseases, or many of these diseases, you would never face if you were not living in these cities. Or you can talk about the Jan Arogya Yojana. What are you doing? You are trying to ensure, provide comprehensive, affordable insurance and healthcare for all. Why? Because you realize that health is more important than wealth. Any of these examples, you can use one in your introduction, one in your conclusion. More importantly again is the body paragraph. Health is more important than wealth. That is what we are trying to write. So first please tell us why. 3-point rule again, 3 simple points on which you will write, 3 things that you will think about when you have time to prepare for your essay, when you're sitting in the exam hall. Why is health important? Simple words. Health is important because without good health, I cannot live a fulfilling life. I will always be dependent on others. Health is important because if you are not healthy, your social functioning, occupational functioning, domestic functioning, all of them are impaired. Number 3, health is important because it is not a luxury, it is a necessity. Health, good health, if you don't have a good car, if you don't have a good bank balance, if you don't have a very big house, I can still manage. But if a person does not have health, whether you're man or woman, young or old, rich or poor, it affects everyone. Therefore, health is important. Am I writing something difficult here? No. Plain simple words. Can you people think of this? Yes. But how will you think of it? If you spend 5 minutes before you start writing, all that you have to do is a little bit of planning. Number 2, why is wealth important? I want to give you people good health, but I can't give you good health without wealth. I need wealth to give you better infrastructure, to give you better facilities, to give you better air, to give you better water, to give you better food. I need that for a better standard of living, for more opportunities, for better research and development. And the third part of this topic, why is health more important than wealth? Because number 1, and many students have written this, but they've ignored the other parts, because I cannot enjoy wealth without health. And number 2, because without good health, I cannot even generate more wealth. I need social capital. I need a good quality of human capital. The word human capital, is it given in your handout? I think about 7 or 8 times. 7 or 8 times at 7 or 8 different places, because that fundamentally is what we are trying to do. No example, simple words, simple understanding. And if you write this down, I think even a student who is not very good at English, there is not a single word over here, probably one word that some students may not be able to come up with on their own is impaired. Other than that, the thoughts are very simple. That's your body paragraph number 1. Again on Tuesday, this is the focus of your essay. 3-point rule, 3 simple points through which you explain how the key terms of the essay are correlated, what your understanding is. And now if I want to look at what I will write in this essay, this now is what I'll write. What are we talking about? Health is more important than wealth. So focus on that aspect. Again, there are other points also that you could have written, but of all the ones that were given, again this also had I think about 45 points given in this handout, out of which I need to choose 5. So maybe a couple more, 4-5 more would have been applicable, but accessibility, economic or the economic dimension, it should be affordable. Affordability, what evidence do I give? For example, PMJ, more health and wellness centers in the rural parts of India. Number 2, accessibility and social. What do I need? More awareness. For example, socio-economic benefits, that if a woman has good health, her child has better health. If a child has better health, the entire society and entire generation can be improved. Number 3, health promotion, social, good human capital. For good human capital, what do I recommend? This, surprisingly, many students wrote, in fact, a lot of students wrote, the Poshan Abhiyan. What is Poshan Abhiyan? Number 1, malnutrition free India by 2022, but now that's one part, but the second part, which will become important in the next topic, is that it also focuses on antenatal care. It also focuses on girls' education. It also focuses on girls' diet. It also focuses on early childhood care. Why and how that is important, you will understand with the next topic, and so on and so forth. This again, I am not saying anything new here. All of this is directly picked up from your handouts. Now, that is one topic, that health or the health of nations is more important than their wealth. Second healthcare topic was that health is not just the absence of disease, it is the presence of well-being. Is that correct? Of course, so I agree with it. Now, health is more than the absence of disease. It is the presence of well-being. For this, what content can I use for your introduction? Number 1, and this I am actually borrowing from that girl, outstanding introduction she had written. Unfortunately, I am forgetting her name. Number 1, celebrity suicides, indicating that just because you don't have a disease does not mean that you're healthy. Your well-being is suffering. Number 2, poor diet and stunting. 4.6 crore children in India are stunted. They don't have any disease. Stunting is not a disease, it is a syndrome. but this syndrome effectively impairs them from living a normal life, either socially or personally or professionally or occupationally and so on. Number 3, mother's education and the impact on child stunting. Number 4, what you're witnessing right now if you're sitting in Delhi is air quality. None of us are, do you realize that the COVID pandemic is less dangerous for us than the air quality in Delhi? If I want to keep myself safe from COVID, what do I need to do? Stay home, don't meet people, don't step out of the house. You're absolutely fine. But if the air quality in India, in Delhi is as bad as it currently is, last 2-3 days that I've been going home, the first thing that I do when I reach my house, I don't do anything else. I go straight, wash my hands so that I can disinfect them and throw water, I think about 7-8 times into my eyes. Because by the time I get home, my eyes are hurting. The air quality is that bad. And this will affect me. Even if I want to stay at home and stay safe, it still affects me. There's no disease that we have so far, thankfully. But we don't have any well-being. That is what health is. Or you could talk about problems of globalization, urbanization and so on. Again, choose the content for your introduction and for your conclusion well. Similarly, moving on, in the body paragraph here, what will I write? First, I will write what is well-being. And for well-being, students try to give definitions. If you can do that, excellent. Even if you cannot do that, what is well-being? Well-being means that number 1, physically I should be well, mentally I should be well, psychologically, emotionally I should be well. That's it. Number 2, the ability to reach and harness one's full potential. That there should be no factor that creates an obstacle in your achieving what your actual potential is. Now, that is well-being. But what is the concern? Concern is that the focus is often on curative measures. After the problem occurs, how can we address that problem? How can the problem be nullified? And many such problems are very comfortably preventable. What is preventable? For example, the stunting of a child. For example, what we witnessed in Delhi with the air quality, they are very easily preventable. Therefore, what needs to be done? Don't focus on curative, focus more importantly on holistic, comprehensive and preventive measures. And what will this mean? This will need an integration of environmental, individual and societal interventions. How long? Again, not a single example over here, because I've just given you an example in the introduction. Then I write this to explain the correlation between the terms, and then I move on with my essay. And in this essay, what can I write? Again, these are different parts that you can write. I don't think I need to intersect. No, yes, one thing I will tell you over here. We are talking about the fact that this is the presence of well-being. For well-being, one, because we're talking about integration, one principle that becomes very important over here is intersectoral cooperation. Intersectoral cooperation on a societal level, on a political level, on a socio-economic level. For example, social level, you can talk about CRHP Jamkhed. On a political level, you can talk about the One Health systems. Some student, I don't know who, had written a good conclusion. In the conclusion it had written, this is why, I don't know what the conclusion said, but somewhere in the last 1 or 2 sentences said that this all the more creates, justifies the demand for an Indian health service. And after that wrote, because health is not the absence of disease, it is the presence of well-being. As mandated by the constitution, we should have a Indian health service, and done. And again, these are very good impact. Small suggestion, but used at the right place. If I talk about the same cooperation on a socio-economic level, IMF health and education can boost productivity and so on. Now, this again is just content that I am picking up from there. More importantly, this again is the part that I need you to understand. How do you tailor the content to suit your needs? 2 healthcare topics. Health is more important than wealth for nations, and number 2, health is not the absence of disease, it is the presence of well-being. In both of them, I have again one common content. Principle is health promotion, dimension is social. Ideally, I want good human capital. Concern is poor education of the mother or poor nutrition. Recommendation, improve and integrate provisions of healthcare. And the example, portion. The content is identical, but there are 2 different essay topics. All that you have to do is, when you're writing, keep in mind the focus of the topic, the demand of the topic. How do you write this? For example, if I want to say that health is more important than wealth, how will I put this across? Without a wealthy population, a nation cannot aspire to improving its wealth. You will need healthy people, you will need good human capital to improve your wealth. This requires This requires good human capital, which in turn requires that the health of the citizens is accorded or is given top priority. One major concern in this regard is the lack of proper nutrition, due to which many people are never able to reach their full potential. Instead of becoming partners in the nation's growth, they are relegated to the status of dependents. What example, what evidence do you have for this? India has 4.6 crore stunted children, and half our child mortality is attributable to undernutrition. Now that's your problem. What can you do about this? To address this, the government has introduced the Poshan Abhiyan, which aims to attain a malnutrition-free India by 2022. To this end, it focuses on addressing anemia, growth monitoring, and so on and so forth. What am I using Poshan Abhiyan for? To tell you that through this Abhiyan, we are focusing on health. We are promoting health. Why? Because we need good human capital. That is how you are writing it over here. But the same thing, if I wanted to write it, the same content for a different topic, I will have to modify it, I will have to tailor it according to that topic. For example, here it says, health is not just the absence of disease, it is the presence of well-being. Here what do I write? I want to tell you that it's not enough to be disease free, you should be healthy. So I start my paragraph, this is one of my body paragraphs, I start by writing that there are millions of people who, while not suffering from any disease, are not able to live healthy lives. A case in point is India's same content is India's 4.6 crore children who suffer stunting, which significantly compromises their social life and occupational opportunities. It is pertinent to note here that the primary causes of stunting are either a lack of proper nutrition or a lack of the mother's education. More importantly, we are talking about well-being. So you should again focus on preventive rather than curative measures. Curative measures come when there is already a disease. So you will say that both the issues are easily preventable by integrating childhood care and providing better awareness to mothers. For example, Poshan Abhiyan. But even under the Poshan Abhiyan, the content that I will give will change slightly. That Poshan Abhiyan, I was looking at your handout, there are about 2 paragraphs and sizable paragraphs. But now I use a different part of the paragraph. Poshan Abhiyan aims to improve nutritional outcomes and ensure attainment of a malnutrition-free India by 2022. As such, what is it focusing on? It focuses on antenatal care. It focuses on girls' education and diet. It focuses on the right age of marriage, etc. What am I trying to do? I am trying to ensure that if every woman, every girl is married at the right age, she knows her reproductive rights, she understands the importance of family planning. In that case, the mother's awareness can have a significant impact on the child. Diseases will not even come, because before the disease we have already prevented it. We have taken the necessary preventive measures. The content is the same. All that you are doing again is modifying, tailoring the content to suit the demands of the topic. Minor adjustments that you make, but a significant impact that it leaves on your essay. This does everyone follow? This, before I move on to the third part, is everyone clear? No, not only context. See, Poshan Abhiyan, what is Poshan Abhiyan? If you talk to anyone, what is Poshan? Poshan, I don't know what to call it. Poshan means basically feeding, nutrition, diet. So one aspect of it is diet, and that is with the primary objective, where is that given? Malnutrition free India by 2022, number one. But Poshan does not focus only on addressing nutritional needs. It focuses on other aspects also. What are the other aspects? In one word, let me call them awareness. Awareness to, now I can't give too much awareness to a child, but I can certainly make the mother more aware. Where Poshan Abhiyan is given, in that section in your handout, there is another piece of information which says that the mother's education has a direct impact on the child's health. If a mother is illiterate, or if she is educated till primary level or higher level, it has a corresponding very direct objective impact on the child's well-being and growth. So if you say that you should write about health is more important than wealth, I will focus on diet. But if you say that health is not the absence of disease but the presence of well-being, I may focus on diet, but more importantly I have to tell you that this awareness is important, because if a mother is well aware of what is good for her and her child, that helps us prevent many diseases that are easily avoidable. So it's just the focus that will change slightly. what are you doing? You're only selecting. You're choosing content which you believe is most appropriate for that topic. Alright, earlier, right in the beginning of the class, I said that a problem that students faced, you people, in fact, the people who've written these essays, one problem that you faced was greed, information overload. What does that indicate? That you don't have the ability to choose the right content. You can't, these points, you have the handout right in front of you, but in the exam, you will not. All of this will have to be in your mind, you'll have to recollect, you'll have to sort it out and then choose the right content. So choose content and tailor it to meet the demands of the topic. Does everyone follow? Alright. Third set of topics was based on women related issues. For women, 2 topics were given. Number 1, women's rights are human rights. Now here, are the rights demanded by women basic human rights? Answer is yes. What do women want? In fact, I'll explain that to you in a minute. Do I agree with this? Yes. Women's rights are human rights. Some content for your introduction, again directly from your handout. Statistics, rape in every 16 minutes, marital rapes are 9 times more likely to happen, child rapes happen once in every 155 minutes. Differential COVID impact in terms of safety, in terms of employment, in terms of opportunity for males as compared to women. You want to create a powerful introduction, talk about acid attacks. What is the right of every human being? Safety. The face that I have the right to live with this face till the end of my life. I have the right not to be attacked by someone else. But this happens not with men, it happens more commonly, in fact almost exclusively with women. You can talk about land inheritance laws. Do you have the right to own land and inherit land? Answer is yes. Whether you're a male or a female, if your parents had some land, if they had some property, you should be given an equal right. You can talk about Sabrimala. Forget everything else, forget money, forget opportunity, forget health, forget all of that. Most importantly, do I at least have the right to go to God? If I want to meet God in whatever form, in the form of a temple or a mosque or a church, should I be able to go there? Yes. But even that is denied to women in Sabrimala. That's not a gender right. That is a that is not a come on. That is not a gender based right. That is a basic human right. Now, in this essay, some students will get low marks. They have, in fact, I have cut their marks also. Why are they not getting marks? Because throughout the essay, they have not focused on the topic. They have talked about the problems of women. What are the problems of women? They are discriminated against. They are not given adequate nutrition. They are not given safety. They are not given opportunities, glass ceiling, so on and so forth. You are absolutely right. There is nothing wrong with your content. The only problem with your content is that we said that women's rights are human rights. This second part over here, you completely forgot. Through your essay, the only thing, I have not given you very strict marks this time. I could have cut a little more marks than that, but I have just reminded you over there. First, please tell us that every single right that you are asking for or women are asking for are human rights, fundamental human rights. I don't know, some boy, his essay I was checking yesterday morning, this boy for, I don't know, he wrote about 5 body paragraphs. First 2 paragraphs, I don't know what his language was, but he said that another one important human right is the right to life. And then he started talking about female feticide. Then he said one important human right is the right to education. But then he said that in India, many girls are not able to get access to education. They face they face opposition from society, from their parents, and so on and so forth. He did this for about 2 paragraphs, but after that he forgot. After that he started talking about women's problems. You only have to write that one sentence to tell me that right to education is a fundamental human right. Right to food is a fundamental human right. Right to work is a fundamental human right. The moment you say that, so now say that women's rights are not something special, they are not something unique. This is what every single gender deserves. And this you will explain to me in the first body paragraph. First tell us what are human rights. Women's rights are not human rights, so what are human rights? Rights that enable us to live fulfilling lives. What will enable you to live a fulfilling life? The right to life, the right to work, the right to food, right to education, right to safety, right to health, and so on. Now, what is the issue of concern? That when women ask for these rights, they are treated as if they are asking for something special, something exceptional, something very difficult. No, they are asking for basic human rights. If a man has the right to feed himself, so does the woman. If a man has the right to live a safe, secure life, so does a woman. There is nothing exceptional, and therefore, what is vital? What is vital is to remember that these rights over here are gender neutral. Whether you are male, whether you are female, or whether you belong to the third gender, every single person, not a single person, man, woman, or a transgender, not a single person should be denied these rights. And therefore, you say that all genders deserve these rights. They are fundamental for our very existence. Which difficult word have we used over here? Nothing. Which complicated term or complicated thought have we used over here? Nothing. If I give you these three headings over here, these 3 points over here, and I ask the students to write something down, even they will be able to write it effectively. Why do you not write it in the essay? Again, because you don't plan, because you don't prepare your content. Therefore, just spend a little time preparing that structure. Now, what do I write in my essay? Women's rights are not human rights, so as far as possible, in these 5 dimensions, you can choose anything. There's a lot of content for women, but as far as possible in your writing, rights should be exemplified. For example, if I talk about culture, I can talk about society, I can talk about patriarchy and so on, but again, I want to emphasize rights. So in the cultural aspect, I choose, of all the ones that I have, I choose legal. Under legal, what do I want? Ideally, rule of law, treat all genders as equal. But what is the concern? Lack of awareness about rights. What example will I give? The Goa polygamy law. I will talk about agricultural land inheritance. From culture again, I can talk about religion. Under religion, what do I know? What do I want? That all genders should have the same rights. But what is the problem? Bias against women, antiquated, archaic, outdated practices. For example, Sabrimala. For example, triple talaq. If I want, there are a couple of other points I can take from culture, but I should move to another dimension also. So I take a look at status. For status employment, in employment, what do we want? Gender parity. What is the problem? Differential treatment of women. In fact, usually poor treatment of women, which explains to a large extent India's low women labor force participation rate. What recommendation will you give here? Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana, Code on Wages Act. More examples are also given, but and again, don't use both of them. If you're writing, for example, I would choose only Sabrimala, I would choose only land inheritance, I would choose only Code on Wages Act. You may choose something different from me, but don't write 2, 2, 3, 3 examples. That becomes very bulky. It reduces the impact of your essay. All right, I can talk about safety and workplace, Vishaka guidelines, health in childbearing, medical termination of pregnancy up to 24 weeks. In fact, yes, some student had started with this one also over here, Texas and the 6 weeks abortion. That was the introduction, and when that person wrote the introduction, it was very powerful. Again, had a very good impact. That in Texas, in one of the richest, most developed, one of the most advanced countries in the world, we have such archaic laws where women are not being given the right over their own bodies, and this becomes especially acute, especially problematic when you consider that women may have conceived, maybe expecting a child because of an act of crime, because of rape, because of incest, because of one form of violence or the other. And I've just stopped here at health. There are another 2 principles, another 8 points that are given, which you could have used very easily. Therefore, again, I'm saying there is a lot of content. Learn how to choose it wisely. One final topic that was given was on again on women, that women are perhaps the only victims who are treated as the accused. In this topic, what was the problem of students? In this topic, the problem with students is that they talked about the victim part, that they explained. The accused part, they almost completely ignored. Many students who have written this essay, that how women are accused. Even if women want something, they want justice, they want rights, they want equality, where is the aspect of accusation? And if you cannot prove that, then you're only talking about the fact. Then what is the essay? Tell me about the problems of women. But we are not talking about the problems of women. We are saying that women are treated as the accused. Is the topic right? Yes, I agree with it. What examples can I give over here? Now, we are talking about women being victims and also being accused. So you can talk about the Goa polygamy law. You can talk about the culture of Devdasis in India. You can talk about housework as a barrier to education. The Tarun Tejpal case, where that judge said, made very unacceptable, inappropriate remarks about the woman's clothes, about her presence and so on. You can talk about the Texas abortion law. Now, women are perhaps the only victims who are treated as the accused. What will you write in body paragraph number 1? First, if you say that women are victims, what are they victims of? What are women victims of? they are victims of the denial of rights. Right to what? Right to life, right to health, right to education, right to property, right to safety, and so on. Number two, what are they victims of? They are victims of discrimination, they are victims of violence, and so on. Now, women are victims, that I know. But how are women treated as the accused? This part, had you written and had you reinforced in your body paragraphs, your essay would have been outstanding. How are they treated as the accused? Number one, if they say that they are being denied something, or if they are being wronged by society or by others, the onus of proving that what they are saying is right lies with the woman in India. For example, if I talk about Tarun Tejpal's case, what does that show you? It shows you that even if a woman is saying that I have an email which proves that this man made inappropriate advances on me, even then she has to prove that the man is wrong. The man does not have to prove his innocence. The man is treated as innocent, he is put on the side, the focus goes on the woman. What are you doing? You are treating her as the accused. When they try to demand something, what happens? Instead of being supported, they are questioned, they are even criticized. A girl who only wants to say, a girl goes home today and tells her parents, she is in class 11th, she says, when I finish my schooling, I aspire to join an IIT, I want to go to IIT Delhi and I want to become a civil engineer. First question that the parents will say is, where do you think the money is going to come from? You think everyone gets into the IITs, you think the IIT JEE is such an easy exam and so on. But if a boy asks the same question, there is a high probability he will get support. In what form? Immediately. The family may not have the money. Preparing for these exams is very expensive in India, but there is a high probability that the family will not question him about the success rate. They will try to find out from where can we arrange the money. The girl, if she insists that no, I think I am very good at civil engineering, this is the stream where I can really flourish, I can be very happy, instead of being supported, they will be questioned or they will be criticized. What are you doing? Number one, you are denying them education, making them the victim. Number two, you are questioning, you are criticizing them, treating them as the accused. And number three, in this case, what is needed? Focus on the problems. Don't look at the symptoms of the problem, focus on the causes of the problem, rather than sometimes not even discussing whether the problem exists. In the better cases of women related issues, we debate whether the problem is true, whether the problem exists. In some cases, we deny the fact that the problem even exists. In body paragraph number 1, simple 3-point rule, make 3 points for yourself, or make a skeletal structure of 3 points which will help you explain how these terms are correlated. And again I am telling you, the rest of the content you people have, there your first priority, in fact 2 things that you are doing. Number 1 is the choice of content, but the content you have. Number 2 is the interpretation of the topic which you people write in your first body paragraph. Your concern is this part over here, interpreting the topic correctly and conveying that interpretation in this paragraph. And for this topic, what content can I write? Now the content is different. It's vastly different from the previous one. Previous one was about women's rights. This one is about victims and accused. So when I say victims and accused, I will have to, in each of my paragraphs, I should show you something that is wrong. For example, under culture and society, I will talk about the social dimension, I will talk about gender equality. Here, I will talk about patriarchal norms, and the example I will give you is the evidence I will give you is in fact this many students wrote about, is Sabla scheme. I will talk about Equality Bill of 2019. Under culture and domestic cultures, I will say that you should be nurtured. But in India, what is the problem? Marital rape. So here you can talk about the Justice Verma Committee. You can talk about child sexual abuse. Again, women are victims treated as the accused. The lack of education or denial of education. In this case, what is the problem? Mostly housework. And this is the example many students wrote, which is Nanni Kali by the Mahindra Trust. Safety on a societal level, freedom from crimes. Problems, increasing crimes, now accompanied by victim shaming. Tarun Tejpal case, Nirbhaya Fund, and so on. Content is abundant. All that you have to do, again, 2 things. Number 1, choose the right content depending upon the topic. Number 2, interpret the topic correctly and put that right interpretation in body paragraph number 1. This does everyone follow? This is everyone clear? Alright. Then this is what I needed to explain to you, what I needed to discuss with you regarding your first test. Second test is coming up now on Tuesday. On Tuesday, in fact, let me give you a couple of guidelines also over here. Test is on Tuesday. Like last time, the paper will be on the topics will be uploaded on your portal, will be available on your portal at 11 o'clock, 11 a.m. on the 16th. Submission deadline, last time you had 4 days because Diwali came up in between. This time the normal submission deadline is 3 days. So 18th November, and you can submit it till again 12 midnight. After 12 midnight, there were a few students who came to me who said that, sir, we could not submit it. I don't know what kind of excuses they give, that, sir, we could not submit them. I had written my essay a long time back. How is it long time back when you got the topic only 3 days back? Please ensure that you write it and you submit it by 12 midnight. Yes, that reminds me, I was also told by the staff over here that many students, in fact, one essay script I have checked where there is no name. There is no name, there is no topic, I had no roll number, nothing. I don't know who that person is. Fortunately, the essays themselves were very bad, so I don't think that person will come to take them back. When you are writing your test, please ensure, obviously, write section A first and section B later. Mention your name, mention your roll number or your ID number clearly. 2-3 answer scripts, this time I had to argue with them and then check them, because they said that, sir, we don't have the ID number or the ID number does not match, so we are not sure whether or not this essay has to be accepted. I have taken them, I have checked them, they are lying here, you will get them. But on your sheets on the very first page, your name, roll number, ID number, whatever it is, your admission number, whatever they have given you, please ensure that you mention. Alright, and deadline again is 12 p.m. on 18th November. Topics that are coming here, reflective essays. One topic, just one topic I'll put for women also, international relations and economics and agriculture. How they will be divided, you will get to know when you look at that. But since in this particular topic, or since section A, that's what the UPSC does, section A will be based only on reflective essays. For reflective essays, this is your area of evaluation. Introduction and conclusion are common to both. Focus on the topic is common to both. Prescriptive value, quality of content is common to both. For reflective essays, the two different dimensions are over here: body paragraph number 1 and optimism. When I check your prescriptive value, what is prescriptive value? The quality of your suggestions, quality of your recommendations, quality of your solutions. There you will have to be optimistic. That is what a reflective essay fundamentally checks, that despite all the problems that we are facing, do you still have a positive, a cheerful outlook towards that issue? And in reflective essay, this is specifically for reflective essays. In reflective essays, most importantly, I have a separate evaluation criteria for body paragraph number 1. The rest of it, the way that your first essays were checked, the 5 criteria will apply to the rest as normal. But here, keep these 2 in mind. Alright, 16th again at 11 in the morning, you will get your topics, and please submit them by the 18th of November. And after this, when is our next class? In fact, 18th November is our next class, and next class we will take up issues related to science and tech. Alright, so after this now, I will meet you on 18th, which is what? Which is on Thursday. Thursday, then we will continue from here. Any question here? So for repetitive topics, where is it better to use quotes? You can use quotes wherever you want. You can use quotations at any point, any place that you want, provided you know how to use them wisely. You use them judiciously. That is why I was showing you that one essay where I showed you the introduction and the conclusion. I don't know whether that was a boy or a girl, but that person, when they had to use that IMF report, now that's not a quotation, that's a piece of information. That person used it right in the beginning without mentioning the IMF, changing the language. Used the same piece of information verbatim, citing the IMF in the conclusion, but in both places it had a very powerful impact. Some people have written about women's rights, and they talk about right to education, that women should be given equal access to education. When they write somewhere in between, not in the beginning of the paragraph, in the middle of the paragraph, they write that if you educate a woman, if you educate a man, you educate a person. If you educate a woman, you educate a family or a generation or an entire nation. Not in the beginning, not in the end, they put it in the middle. Placement is important. Placement depends upon how you are writing. what the rest of your content is and where exactly you're fitting. So there's no predefined place as to where and how you use the quotation, depends upon how you're writing that time. All right. Yes, your evaluated answer scripts must be on your portal wherever you submitted them. I think they must be there. Please take a look at them from there. All right, then beyond this, then we'll continue now on Thursday. Thank you very much.